Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, folks, and welcome to our coffee break with your Panther team. I'm Amrit Maldonado, and I lead our Prolifics products team here. Alongside me, I've got Glenn Silverberg. Glenn, you want to
Hi,
say hi?
everybody. Hi, everybody. I'm Glenn Silverberg. I'm the senior developer for the Panther product.
Thank you, Glenn. And of course, I've got the rest of the team, and you'll meet another team member shortly. So we do these coffee break sessions a couple times a year. Oops, can whomever go on mute, please? Thank you very much. So back to what I was saying, we do these coffee break sessions a couple of times a year. It's been about 6-7 months since our last coffee break, and the whole goal is to kind of inform you on what our team's working on, any updates to the product, a good opportunity for you to actually ask questions. Feel free to answer questions. If it's something we can't answer right then we can take it offline. If you need us to, going deep, a little deep dive into a demonstration, we'll be happy to set up a time to do that with you. But most importantly, it's just great to see our customers face to face, or just even speaking to everyone together. It just shows longevity of this product and how powerful it is. So, and let's move on to the agenda. 5.5 for folks, if you haven't heard, you may have been in the dark, but we've just released Panther 5.54. We'll demonstrate the new IDE that may pique your interest to move on to 5.54. In fact, we've got some folks here that have moved, that did migrate to 5.53, and I just want to show you a few tricks of the trade if you don't know them yet with 5.53. A new feature in 5.54 is our Git support. Yes, you've asked for it, and we're giving it to y'all. You're able to maintain your screens, your JPL, your reports under source management using Git. And we'll demonstrate how that is done. Windows only, folks. I think City of Phoenix guys, I know you guys are on Red Hat Linux, but I think you may have your yeah.
We moved our development environment to Windows.
To Windows. Oh, you did. All right.
Yeah, using
Okay,
Visual Studio Code.
Okay, excellent, excellent. All right, so we're all on one platform here. Great. We have a special treat for y'all. I have a guest speaker, Mr. Jeff Grossman, our senior architect here at Prolifics, and he is going to speak about an engagement that he's currently on with one of our large Panther web customers, and that should pique some interest. And then we hope to have time for questions, but if we don't have time for questions, we'll make time for questions. And all right, let's move on to Panther 554. Yes, Panther 5.54. Did I say 5.54? Yes, 5.54. Improved look and feel, folks, for your Windows. If you did download 5.53, you would have seen what I'm talking about. The, just more consistent, so your UI is more consistent. And let's move on to the agenda. 5.54, folks, if you haven't heard, you may have been in the dark, but we've just released Panther 5.54. We'll demonstrate the new IDE that may pique your interest to move on to 5.54. In fact, we've got some folks here that have moved, that did migrate to 5.53, and I just want to show you a few tricks of the trade if you don't know them yet with 5.53. A new feature in 5.54 is our Git support. Yes, you've asked for it, and we're giving it to y'all. You're able to maintain your screens, your JPL, your reports under source management using Git. And we'll demonstrate how that is done. Windows only, folks. I think City of Phoenix guys, I know you guys are on Red Hat Linux, but I think you may have your yeah.
We moved our development environment to Windows.
To Windows. Oh, you did. All right.
Yeah, using
Okay,
Visual Studio Code.
Okay, excellent, excellent. All right, so we're all on one platform here. Great. We have a special treat for y'all. I have a guest speaker, Mr. Jeff Grossman, our senior architect here at Prolifics, and he is going to speak about an engagement that he's currently on with one of our large Panther web customers, and that should pique some interest. And then we hope to have time for questions, but if we don't have time for questions, we'll make time for questions. And all right, let's move on to Panther 554. Yes, Panther 5.54. Did I say 554? Yes, 5.54. Improved look and feel, folks, for your Windows. If you did download 5.53, you would have seen what I'm talking about. The, just more consistent, so your UI is more consistent with Windows 10 kind of look and feel. And I will just bring that up to you. This is Panther 5.54. Yes, it does look like 5.53. Now, if you have 5.53 and your interface does not look like this, meaning your push buttons do not have the 3D look. Let me go into test mode. And they don't highlight like this when you hover over it. When you click into a single line text field, you do not see a thin border like that. When you click in your option menus, you do not see, the swift stepping down, as well as the little arrow right here. If you do not see this, it's because you haven't configured the manifest file. Now, if you download 5.54, same thing, folks. And it may not be very clear. Maybe, during my presentation, it wasn't very clear, but you need to have a manifest file sitting in the same location as your application. So my application name is ProDev, as you know, my development editor. Yes, prodev64.exe. So the manifest file has to have the same name as the application name, prodev64.exe.manifest. So, and it has to live in the same folder, same directory as the location of your app. So if you're deploying it to your customers, same thing. You'll need a ProRun manifest. Only then will you be able to take advantage of this new 2D flat-looking look that everyone's after today. Any questions with the look and feel? I mean, quite a subtle change, but I think it would definitely wow your customers. Grids. Yep. See anything new with our grids? There we go. We actually have implemented checkboxes. They seem to be tied to the first column of your grid. They sure are. And but the gotcha is these have to be list boxes of type select any. So you're able to select 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I can uncheck all of them dynamically. I can select all of them with a click of one checkbox on the title, on the column title, and it checks all of them. Doing it dynamically is quite simple. We have a function called SM select all that you can use to select all your checkboxes in a grid. You basically use SM prop ID, put in the column name, it'll return the object ID. You'll pass that into your SM select all function, and voila, you've got all your rows selected. Sorry, all your rows selected. So that's like the big feature here with grids. Of course, your list box, it has to be a list box of type select any. And again, a simple change, guys. Honestly, take your grids, change the list box type, and you've got that feature. No rewrite, no recompilation needed, nothing. Any questions on this? None? Excellent. Moving on to Git support. Yes. So, like I said, you're able to now maintain your screens, JPL, and reports under source management using Git. Now, this feature was around back in our Jam 7 days. But of course, we were using PVCS and SCCS. But today, guess what? You can actually use the world famous Git support. And this definitely empowers your CI/CD pipeline. Everyone's about DevOps today. So yes, we do have the facility to the cool part is all you have to do is stay within the Panther IDE, and you're able to check in and check out these screens that you've made changes to, add comments to it. You're also able to view history of versions of the different screen versions that you've made, along with reading the comments to it. Do a diff within the interface. Just very cool, very modern looking. Now, before I go into my demo, let's just talk about these two abbreviations here, MSSCCI. So MSSCCI is actually the driver we're using. It's a Microsoft source control integration driver that we're using. And like I said, it's been around for ages. And the provider we've chosen is called Agent Git. We looked at quite a few providers. I mean, Glenn built this feature, and he looked at quite a few providers, and this was our favorite provider, Agent Git. It is a licensed software, so you'll need it installed on your local machine. All right, because that's what will push your updates to your local repo, Agent Git. Make sure your Agent Git is the same bitness as your Panther client. So if you've got Panther 64-bit, make sure you're using Agent Git 64-bit. So my demo, I'll be moving around, to a few different interfaces. I'll start off with my Git repo. There we go. I do have a Git repo that I've set up here. And yes, so I've called it Spider Rep 7. Let me just open this guy here. So I'm going to show you, from my Git repo, and I'm going to clone my Git repo into my local repo, then work within Panther, make changes in Panther, push those updates to my local repo, and then push them out to my remote repo. I've said the word repo too many times, haven't I? Anyways. Right, so what I've done here is I've actually pushed just a Panther library. It's called spider repo 7.lib. And this library contains a screen, a report, and a JPL file. Pretty simple. I've got them all stored in the web branch. Let me just grab the URL of my repo because I'll need it a little later on. Now I've used get bashed to clone my repo, simple, just get and clone it. And let me just show you what I've done here. There we go. I have so Spider Rep 7, and this is my library, Spider Repo 7. Again, this is a clone of what I have in my remote repo. So let me go and work in Panther. How do we do all this in Panther? Right. So within Panther, well, actually what I should do is open up that library. So let me get the path to it. Right. Oh, good. So this is my clone repo, by the way, with this hidden Git file, Git directory. So I'm going to open up my Panther library that contains the stream members. There we go. Simple library, 3 members in it. Now, first thing I'll do is actually put this library under source code management, go up to file, source management. I'm sure you've seen this before. You just never used it. Configure library. All right, this is what's new here. All with the agent get interface. I will choose the library I like to put under source management, Spider Repo 7. Check the enable configuration management checkbox. Choose my driver, MSSCCI. Choose my provider. I'm using agent get here, not Jazz. And all you need to do is fill in the project name, local project path, and working directory. That's all that's needed to interface agent get with our MSSCCI driver. So project name, it actually, oh yeah, this can really be called anything you want to. Not related to the name of your remote or local repo. Local project path, okay, this has to contain this actually has to be a path to your local repo, which I've already saved in my clipboard. There you go. Or maybe not. Let me just make sure I've got the right. Yes, the path to my Git repo. Got it. And the working directory by default, it just gives you the library name, Spider Repo 7. That's all I need. Press OK. Are you sure you want to enable configuration management for Spider Repo 7.lib? Yes. Library updated. Excellent. So let me open up one of this is a screen. In fact, notice once I've configured it, look to the left of my library. It says SCPI, which is Source Management Plugin. That's how I'll know this library and its members have been configured to use our source management system. Okay. So next step is I have to check all my library members into this library, into my local repo. So what I'll do is I'll open each, let me just do this again. Let me open each one of them, go up and do file, check in, and I will just put an initial comment. You can see where this is going, right? I'll just have to do this for each one of them. You can always get a script to get this going if you want to. That's a screen. Next, I'll do my report. Check it in, source management check-in. Add an initial check-in comment, press OK. And I have a GPL file. Oops, sorry. GPL file. Check this guy in. All right, they've all been checked in. Let's make it update. Let's update my GPL file. Okay, I'm checking, of course, I have to check it out, but I don't need to add comments, so I'm going to disregard this guy. My concern is just making sure I've got comments when I check it in. So I'm going to declare a couple of variables here, vars ij, oops, typo. Press OK. Hope you can see that. And my checking comments will be added variables I and j. And check this guy in. Okay. I'd like to show you the history feature here. Right here, click on history. So it'll basically store the different versions of your screens that have been checked in to my local repo. So this is the initial check-in. This is where I added variables I and j. So let me select the previous version and click on the difference button. And this opens up WinMerge, which it's like a diff, which does a comparison of both GPL files, and it highlights what's new here. I'm sure you guys have used software like this. All right. Close this. I'm canceling the checkout. All right, so I'm ready to push. So I'm ready to push these updates up to my remote repo. But before I do that, I'd like to show you what's happening behind the scenes here. There we go. Remember, I created my working directory, Spider Repo 7. So what's happened here when I actually configured my library to be under source code management, it extracted and converted all your library members into ASCII, you know, and you can tell there was one update made because I updated it. I updated my login.jpl file. Right. Last step is pushing my library over. Actually pushing this over to my repo. All right, gotta make sure I'm in the correct folder. Nope, I've got to be in the folder that contains my loose files. Either repo 7. Oops. There we go. Yep, I've got my loose screens. So let me do a git push. And the URL to my Git repo, paste it right here. And I should get a confirmation soon. There we go, looking good. I have an ID. Let me go ahead and refresh my repo. And it does say that folder I pushed over appears here. I should be able to see all my check-in messages in it check-in for my JPL. Of course, I'm able to view the updates that were made here. Oops. Usually it would highlight the the additions that were made. So that is the different steps. I know there are quite a few steps, but we have actually documented this, all the steps I took, in a pretty well thought of and detailed document here with, with screenshots and so on. And we can always help you get to this point if you need to, in a quick screen share session. Any questions on what I've shown or in general about our Git support? No questions? Okay, is that a good thing? All right, okay, I assume that it was all understood, no questions. So let's move on to our special guest, Jeff Grossman. All right, he will talk about a Panther web use case. So go ahead, Jeff, take the mic.
Okay, I think I have it. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. So, so Amrith and Glenn have asked me to come and talk about what I'm doing now with Panther. So I am working with the Department of the Interior of the United States. They have a software group internally, and they provide software for various government agencies, not only Interior. One of the projects they provide is something called QuickTime, which is a time and attendance system. Basically, the classic, grid of days of the week and billing codes, and provide your hours. And then it gets fed over to the payment system, which is on a mainframe. And then, sometime later, people get paid. So it's a very important system. And it is a highly configurable system. There are, I'm trying to remember now, there's about 40 different government agencies using it. Everybody has their own rules. So we spend a lot of time tinkering with the rules, the very fine points of what leave are you allowed to take, how is it reported, how many hours are expected. There are different styles of the reporting that people do. So that's why the project exists. Now, what is it? So it is a 25-year-old project. It started as Panther 3-tier JetNet on Solaris. It is now running as Panther Web on Tom EE, the EE version of Tomcat, on Red Hat. And my particular role here is that I am the accessibility expert. So the various government agencies, in particular the Social Security Administration, insists that the experience of people with different needs and different abilities be the same as those of sighted users and users with good color perception and users who can use a mouse. And this is something that, was given lip service for many, many years, but now there are standards. And as more and more of people's everyday lives has moved on to the internet, it's become more and more necessary that people be able to use the computers for things. So, so the thing is to figure out what are the different classes. I'm checking my notes here. The different classes of people who you have to work to help, right? So there are people who cannot see, and that means that they are going to use software called a screen reader. And a screen reader is just what you think it is. It starts in the upper left-hand corner, and it reads the words across the screen. And people have to listen and understand what they can do. And these screen readers, of course, are helpful. They tell you what kind of a widget you're in, and they can read auxiliary information about them. There are people who have trouble seeing contrast. And so you have to be careful that whenever you indicate a condition in the app, you don't, you do it only, say, with color. So the classic red light, yellow light, green light is not a good choice as it happens, because there are people who can't tell. So you must always use words and colors. There are people who cannot use a mouse. So you must make sure that navigation through tab and arrow work on the screen somehow. So there's a lot of these there's a lot of these sort of things that you have to do. So the specs that I am working on I've just sort of outlined them a little bit, but so the standards bodies that are out there, there's the WAI and there's the WCAG. These two are the big ones, and they do reference each other. And like any good standard, there are several versions of each, some of them approved, some of them not. But if you stick with, WCAG version 2, you'll be fine. The government has its own standard that is known as Section 508. And anybody who's ever done business with the American government has heard of Section 508 because it is a law to comply with it. So let's see. So what can we do to comply? So broadly speaking, you need to get ready. The one thing you need to do to get ready is get yourself a screen reader. There are free ones. Apple comes with one, Microsoft comes with one. These are not considered great. There's two that are considered very good. There's a free one called NVDA, and there's a for-pay one, which is considered the best, called JAWS, JAWS. So you need to get those there, and you need to start getting accustomed to listening to a screen reader. Another tool that is very useful, there is, you can check it out on GitHub, called Andi, A-N-D-I. And what this is a dynamically installable set of JavaScript. And it will examine your page and report to you the various things that it thinks you need to do to make the page more accessible. And broadly speaking, Andi is very good. It's not perfect. And of course, there are some things that, when all is said and done, are ambiguous. And so need to be looked at. For example, an example of an ambiguous thing is that Andi will complain if a clickable region is too small. Okay, well, but that it may be the case that you have a checkbox and the checkbox is small. There's nothing that can be done about it. So you have to know how to read the observations that it gives. So broadly speaking, what can you do to comply with accessibility requirements? And if you're selling to the government, Section 508 requirements. So the first thing is, for goodness sake, use normal HTML widgets. This is far and away the most helpful thing, because all of this other software is all written to comprehend HTML standards. And it's up to HTML5. There's no worry about that. But if you're going to have a push button, by all means, use a push button, right? Pointy bracket, input, type equals button. And because the screen reader will know from the type, and it will tell the user something on the order of, you are on a push button, here's what the button says, you can press the space bar to activate this button, and so on. Unfortunately, in the application I am working on, we have some buttons, but we also have many, many, many buttons that are made out of a span of text, and various attributes have been added to it to make it look like a button and click like a button, but it is not a button. And so when you have structures that are not standard boilerplate HTML, you have to learn ARIA, A-R-I-A. And ARIA is a set of labels that you can, just attributes, that you throw onto DOM elements. These attributes essentially create a shadow DOM that the screen reader perceives and will use for its navigation. So it gets particularly twisty when you have nested drop-down menus, but fortunately we don't have much of that. But what you can do is, say you have a grid, which is going to be represented as an HTML table, of course. If you need to tell your user what is the purpose of this table. If the table is just rearranging or controlling the real estate on the screen, then you mark such a table as role, R-O-L-E, equals presentation. And that tells the screen reader to ignore it, not to say anything, because you're just using it to control real estate. If it's a real table, then you can say role equals data, but more importantly, you give it ARIA label equals, and then a name that can be read out to tell the person, here's the name of this table. Now, there's lots of other ways to do that. You can have a legend on the table. There's various other ways to attach blocks of text. But leaving the details of tables out, I want to go back to the original point, which is use real widgets. If you use real widgets, you will need a minimum of ARIA. Okay, but you will need to know ARIA. Undoubtedly, you will need to add ARIA. Another thing that is important to do is provide something called a skip link. And if you go to various sites on the internet, you will see that this is becoming very, very common. I know that various travel websites now have the skip link on there. If you go to booking.com, I think Kayak has it also. But there's lots and lots of places that provide a skip link. And what a skip link is a hidden field somewhere in the upper left-hand corner of the screen so that the screen reader will encounter it very early. And it gives a keystroke that allows the user to skip to the central portion of the page. And this is because for a sighted user, we all know, there's a header at the top. It says the name of the app. It says the time and date. It says who I'm logged in as, all that header information, which a vision impaired person does not need to hear repeated on every single page, okay? So the skip link gets you past the headers and down to where the thrust of this particular page is, okay? And the last thing I'm going to talk about is grid navigation. So the standards treat a grid as if it was a bag of fields. So if you tab, using tab to move around the screen, you use tab and your tab lands you in a grid, your next tab will take you out of the grid. It will not walk you from cell to cell across the grid, which is what you might expect. Once you are in a grid, you have to use the arrow keys. You can also use the home key and the end key. You can do control home, control end. And this is all behavior that you're going to have to figure out. You're going to have bindings to make the keys behave properly. And then ultimately, when you tab, you will tab out of the grid. So I wanted to make you aware of that, because that was an unexpected chunk of work that we had to do. And what else did I want to talk about? So that's mostly what I wanted to talk about. The thing is that it isn't all that hard if you are writing new code, right? Because you will carry along a lot of these things. There's one quirk that you'll have to deal with in a Panther web app, and that is, of course, that we do submits frequently. The style nowadays is all single-page apps. So if you are doing that, that's great, and you have your submits going in the background. If you don't have your submits going in the background, then you also probably have to figure out a way to remember your current cursor position. I'd save that in a hidden field somewhere, make it part of the submit, and then when the screen comes back, you have to have a little piece of jQuery that says, I know where the cursor was, and put the cursor back. So that's, I think, what I'm going to report on. Like I said, I was just trying to finish. In new work, this will be okay to do. If you have, like I do, 20 years of code to go in and figure out, so then you spend more time, finding what's still working and hacking away the dead wood and, re-implementing things that were done before but are no longer done safely. But overall, you shouldn't be scared of the requirement, and you should think about doing it, because you would be surprised at the number of people who have a disability of some kind. They all need to use your app.
That's true, Jeff. Wow, that was a pretty good lesson, Jeff. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
City of Phoenix guys and Draghi, have you all ever gone down that road of implementing and having to do with compliance like this?
We just now have several requests for not the Panther applications, but web applications that it applies for any kind of web applications, for some government applications that are facing the general public, and we are encountering exactly these issues, and this was really useful. Thank you very much.
Excellent.
Yeah,
City of Phoenix? Yeah, go ahead, sorry.
oh, that's right. Did I hit the wrong thing? Okay.
Now we hear you.
You're good. You're good.
All right. We didn't do a strict 508 compliance checks on our Panther apps. We've done it against other public web-facing apps, but we did try to design it with as much compliance as possible. So,
Right.
And is it successful?
I believe so.
Okay.
I mean, we've implemented as much non-mouse controls through our Panther web interface, as possible to allow to tab through. And like you said, we remember where the cursor was on submits, come back and put it back where it was. And we have tested some free screen reader stuff on some of the screens. So we've done a little bit, but not a strict 508.
Mm. Well, again, if you're already partly down this road, you might be entertained for a half an hour to go look up Andy, ANDI, and what you do is bookmark it, and then when you come to a page you want to study, you activate it, and it will just insert JavaScript, and there'll be a black header that appears at the top, and you can, and it offers you, it says, show me all the tables, show me all the headings, show me all the regions, and it'll highlight with a very lurid pink highlight and little laser beams to show you what fields it's talking about. And it's like I said, it's not perfect, but it is certainly a good leg up.
All right.
We actually have Nazir, one of our team members, actually has a video up on our channel. If you do a search for, I think, was it ADA compliance or web accessibility, right? It's a quick, like, 5-minute video. And I misspelled Jaws, by the way. I apologize, Jeff. It's Jaws. I got it up as Jaw. Right.
That's okay.
So,
If somebody wants to know these, various names, just send us
Yeah.
email, and I can write out all these names and give you
yes,
URLs for
yes,
them.
exactly. I'll let me know if you need Jeff's contact also. I've also
Yes, of
included,
course.
yeah, I've also included some URLs to our release note, and if you're looking at seeing what's been released in the last 20 years, go to this HTM and it will list you the release of all our products from Panther 5 all the way to 5.54. And I'll also send this in an email with the link to our meeting. I'll see it tomorrow once we've got it edited and everything. Get for Panther, the document I showed you, I'll send you the link, the steps I went through. And just remember, we've got our Spider ticketing system built on Panther, profabs.prolifix.com to open up any tickets. This is all we have for you today. If we could help you in any way test out your web application, your client server, or even your mobile application, do reach us at support@prolifix.com. Thank you.